Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/PettyRevenge. In today's episode, the job interview took a turn. Run-of-the-mill entitled neighbor. Disabled parking revenge. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. The job interview took a turn. A few years ago, I worked in management for a corporate office for a financial firm. Part of our duties included creating policies and procedures as well as auditing the offices to ensure compliance of our policies and procedures. Some offices appreciated our efforts while other relationships were adversarial. An assistant management position opened up in an office in my hometown, which was a lateral move with the same pay. I was viewed as extremely qualified since I was coming from a corporate manager position to an assistant manager in a smaller office. I was recommended for the job and received notice of an interview. I researched this office and discovered gaps in their data and prepared a detailed analysis on my findings. I was ready to sell myself and highlight my strengths, which were areas they desperately needed. I entered the interview and I discovered it was a panel of the director and a manager of another branch I just audited who did not like our findings and was quite adversarial. Each interview question I nailed, highlighting my expertise with data and how I've applied that to make improvements, hinting that I could do the same for their office. The director stopped me midway through and said, "Data? I don't need data. If I need data, I'll pull my own data." The manager on the phone snickered. I immediately saw this was sham interview. The next question was, "Tell me about a time you told someone something they didn't want to hear. What was the outcome?" I thought about it and said, "Sure, last week I had to call manager on the phone and tell her that she's been inappropriately waiving accountings, which violates our mission and put customers at risk of fraud, waste, and abuse." Manager on the phone, "I don't know the outcome yet. Have you finished cleaning up the 2,996 accountings?" The director was silent, the manager on the phone was silent. After about 30 seconds she said, "We've just started working on those and have a plan to have them finished over the next 6 months." I then turned to the director and said, "In fact, I called your other assistant manager and had the same conversation with him. Your two offices were the only one we found violating our mission with data integrity. I apologize, but I don't know if your office has yet cleaned up the 4,600 inappropriately waived accountings." The director's face was bright red. "Ugh, yes, I remember he briefed me on that. We are working on it." Run-of-the-mill entitled neighbor. It's a long one, so hold on tight. I, 30F, and my husband, 35M, bought a house in an awesome neighborhood nearly 5 years ago when I got a much better job. We have a son, 6, and twins, 1B/G. We also have a small bichon and a large white golden doodle. When we moved in, everyone, and I mean everyone, to each direction of us worked at the same place I worked. We all got along great. The exception was our entitled neighbor, N, who was a higher up at our place of employment. This EN decided that because she outranks me at work that she can also boss me around at home. Big. Fat. No. We have had some disagreements, but mostly avoid each other unless EN yells from their backyard to ours about whatever it is they're pissed about that day. I should mention that they have 3 monstrous dogs that will bark and snarl at us through their privacy fence every second we are in our yard. They sometimes even climb the fence and I have to snatch up my kids to run in the house before they get over our 4-foot chain link fence. One area we disagree on is that our properties back up to one another with a 6-foot x 220-foot city leeway between them. Neither of us are supposed to use this area as it is for city workers to access gas lines. EN grows rhubarb here. It's her pride and joy. It's huge and beautiful. Every now and then my golden doodle, the athletic gal she is, will launch herself over the chain link and run along their privacy fence barking back with their dogs. This disturbs, but does not damage their rhubarb. One morning their dogs were out around 5 a.m. The neighbor next to them got home from his shift at 6 or so prepared to sleep. Their dogs would not shut up. And Ian would not bring them in. Finally their neighbor had enough of it and called the police station to complain. This was not the first time they left their dogs out to terrorize the neighborhood. An officer that lives across the block happened to be on shift in the area and stopped by to ask them to bring their dogs in as they were disturbing neighbors during quiet hours. We live near a hospital. Ian immediately starts recording him and saying he's harassing her in her home and she reporting him. He explains the situation through the locked door and leaves. Ian calls the police station and tells them our dogs were in her yard making all the noise. The officer stops by our house a few hours later to let us know what she said and to ask us to keep the dogs in the fence. We explain they've been inside all morning, but we understand that our big dog can clear the back fence and we will add height to it immediately so she won't be able to anymore. He thanks us and is on his way. I go to the backyard and add height to the fence immediately. She tries to jump it and fails. Problem solved. Ian yells at me from her back porch, "You really think that's going to make a difference?" So I tell her, when it does you won't be able to blame our dogs anymore and I'd like to see you lie to the police then. She curses at me and goes inside. Here's the petty, and oh, is it just so sweet. The police find out she lied to them after looking at our fence and determining there was no way our dogs could jump over their 6.5-foot privacy fence to be barking in her backyard. She obviously lied. They notice the rhubarb and ask me whose it is. I tell them Ian has had that there for years. They ticket her $2,500 for blocking a city leeway and she has to remove every plant, close to 30. All because she couldn't take responsibility for her barking monsters. Justice was served this day. Disabled parking revenge. I was at my work driving a specially adapted van for the person I support who is disabled and uses a wheelchair. The van has a large electronic ramp that extends outwards at least 3 meters in length. There are numerous disabled stickers and one on the rear of the van asking for a minimum of 3 meters space to given if parking behind it. This is important. We had gone out for a walk in some woodlands and parked in a lay-by next to the side of the road. There was no one parked behind us when we left the van. The lay-by was opposite a small village cafe. When we returned to the van, a car was parked less than half a car's length behind the van, and getting the person I support into the van with a car blocking us wasn't possible. I had a suspicion that the occupants of said car were in the cafe over the road, but due to it starting to rain I wasn't able to confront them. Instead, I did the next best thing, I chose to cause a scene. I pulled the van out into the middle of the narrow road with the hazard lights on and made sure to take my sweet time getting the person I support safely into the van and ensuring their chair was safely fastened into the van. I could see the people watching from the cafe looking quite embarrassed and staring in disbelief. Even funnier still is there was quite a bit of traffic on both sides because of their actions. I have no regrets and enjoyed my petty revenge at making a massive scene. I do hope they learnt their lesson, but I doubt it. Myself and the person I support found it amusing getting a bit of petty revenge, and hopefully they think twice next time. I have no doubt we were probably the talk of the village that day. At least one coach had to wait and a lot of cars. Please don't block disabled vans in with large ramps, the signs are there for a reason and it can cause a lot problems if you do. Yes, I'd do it again in a heartbeat, as the person I support is largely non-verbal and shouldn't have had to have an issue like this. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.